Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Real Relationship Show. I'm really excited to be joined today by Stefanie Lethbridge. Hi, Stefanie. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Now, you've got quite a story to tell, haven't you? We had a conversation, I think it was around early 2021, when I was interviewing you as a result of an article you'd written for a magazine. And it was during that interview that I was really enthralled by your relationship story. So, can you start by telling me a little bit about, first of all, how and when you met your husband?
So I was 14 years old and I met him originally just through friends. We just started talking and instantly we connected and he completely changed my life. When I was 14 years old, I was probably at my lowest point that I've ever been. I remember literally right before I met him, I was suicidal. Wasn't sure where my life was going. And then in that lowest moment, I met my husband, my boyfriend at the time, husband. He completely changed my life. He is my everything. I feel like as soon as we met, we were soulmates. It's like that instant connection that's so strong, that was so easy. And since then, we've been married and married 10 years, together 15 years.
Wow. And you mentioned that when you met, you were at your lowest point, you were suicidal. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to hear of a 14-year-old feeling so low. Do you mind sharing with me what led to you feeling that low?
Yeah. So when I was 13 years old, my dad, he got me so incredibly drunk and he gave me this unknown pill that I remember taking. And I remember being incredibly sick and I remember choking and I remember not sure if I would be like live or die. And I remember thinking afterward, it would have been easier if I would have just died that night. And I remember thinking this anxiety that carried with me, the guilt that I carried with through years, we're thinking it would have been easier if I would have just died that night, because I remember him standing over as I'm laying there, not even sure if I'd be like trying to catch my breath. And I'm like, what is going on? And he was looking down, he was laughing at me, taking pictures of me. It's like he wanted to remember that moment that I was at my lowest. And then after that, I completely blacked out. And I feel like that memory carried with me so long, and I carried that guilt at such a young age. And I remember even writing in my journal and everything, saying like all these thoughts that I just, especially so young, right? So it completely changed my life. I remember cutting my wrist, just trying to get some type of relief from, like, I couldn't, every time I closed my eyes at night, I would imagine that exact same spot, exact
Yes.
same him laughing at me choking, not even sure if I'd be alive or dead. And I'm thinking it would have just been easier if I would have just died that exact same night. And I'm like, why isn't like everything I try, I'm trying to cut my wrists and it's not working. I'm still here. And then all of a sudden I meet my husband at 14. And I remember every single night he would call me like up from the phone, because he knew that I couldn't go to sleep. He knew very well, even he was 15 years old, and he knew very well that I was struggling. And not once did he ever make me feel like I was a problem or, someone that had like, a burden to be on. He was there calling me every single night for years just so I'd be able to fall asleep. And that alone completely changed my life. I started changing my mindset, thinking, there are really good people out there and you can change your life. You don't have to live with this anxiety every single night. And that he completely changed my view on everything, because at that point I thought, yeah, there's only one option. Every time I close my eyes, I'm going to see that. And the only way out of this is by committing suicide. And I remember thinking and believing it at that time. And I feel like it was fate, that the universe had just kind of brought him into my life to be like, you know what, it doesn't have to be like that. You can get rid of your past, you can release your past, you can live a happy life even with a traumatic past.
Wow. And I've got so many questions, and I know listeners and viewers won't forgive me if I don't ask about your relationship with your dad, because we all hear stories, and not everybody is fortunate enough to have parents who really look after them. And I don't know of anyone who would find it acceptable to give their 13-year-old son or daughter so much alcohol to get them blind drunk, and then give them a mysterious pill to get them in that sort of state, and then stand laughing and take photos. And, by all means, if you don't want to answer me, you don't have to answer me. But what was your relationship like with your dad back then, before that happened? What's it been like since? Because to me, it just beggars belief, quite frankly.
Yeah, so there was multiple sides to it in the sense that if you were to look at it from an outsider's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it was I was able to do all these fun things and be taken everywhere from an outsider's perspective. This is why I feel like it's important, because those looking in, you would have no idea what's behind closed
Mm-hmm.
doors. As soon as you close the doors, it became that abusive relationship even before my 13th birthday. So I feel like I grew up in a very abusive relationship with my father, my biological father.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like my parents were separated. That's why my mom got divorced. She's very, very strong for doing this. She completely changed my life because she left him as soon as my dad, I think I was only 6 months old, so I don't remember this except for hearing stories
Mm-hmm.
from her saying that he threw me and was like calling me names and all these things, even at 6 months. And that was the point she left him. And I feel like she's incredibly strong for that. So I feel like even before my 13th birthday, it was a struggle. I feel like my brother, he stopped seeing him when he was very young, and because he was incredibly abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And even after, I think my 13th birthday was the point that I realized his true side, because he had two sides to him. When we were out, it seemed like, he took me all these fun things, and it was almost like a manipulation, right? It's like I would keep coming
Mm-hmm.
back because he's like, hey, I get to have all these fun things, but then hey, I feel like it was very confusing, especially growing up. So my 13th birthday was my main point when everything became clear to me, that I realized that I had a choice, that I can control if I see him, if I don't, how close of a relationship. And since then, I haven't spoken to him since, like, around that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the last things. And I've been honestly, I feel like it's been almost like a relief in a way, just because it's been helpful for me being able to move on, to be happier, and now hoping to inspire others to know that,
Mm-hmm.
if they're going through a hard time too, that, you have a choice, and you can try and not let your past. I know it's hard, and I've been through that, knowing that I can't even sleep some nights before, knowing that every time I close my eyes, I would see all my memories from the past, the abuse, everything. But know that now I don't feel any of that. I was able to release all of it. And I feel like a lot of what I do is to inspire people to know that your anxiety, you can control it. If you have the right tools, if you have all of that, you can become free of your past.
Wow. So, what surprises me, I think, is after such an experience, such a relationship with your dad, you've gone on to have this incredible relationship with your husband Jake. And even at such a tender age, at the age of 14, you allowed this man, this boy, into your life, and you trusted him. And so many other people in that sort of situation, with that background and experience, they would have been turned off men for life, and certainly would not have trusted another man, even if they were the same age as them. So what was it about Jake? You touched a little bit earlier, and you said he phoned you every night to make sure you're okay. And in other circumstances, that could be seen as being very controlling. But there was obviously something within you, maybe something within him, that made you realise you were safe. Can you describe that to me?
Yeah, I remember exactly my mom telling me growing up, saying, you know what, I have been through, because she has been through a lot in terms
Mm-hmm.
of relationships, and I've been there seeing her been going through all these. And she's saying, and she was very incredibly open and like to me, and I was so grateful. And I remember the one time her saying to me, he's like, make sure that you don't use use my mistakes as a pass of what not to do, like what not to look for in a guy. And she really used her experiences, because she didn't have to do that, but she took her experiences and was incredibly open and honest to say, you know what, this is what is not okay in a relationship. So then I feel like it really taught me right from wrong, even at a very early age. I'm like, okay, so it's not okay for, to be controlling. I'm in control of, when, like, if I needed help, it was always on me. It was, he would, my husband Jake, he would be there calling me every night, but because I wanted it, not because, if I didn't need it, I knew I was in control of, what I wanted, what I didn't. I was in control of all that. And I feel like because of what is an abusive and not healthy relationship, it really gave me an idea of what wasn't healthy, so then I can start looking for the opposite, essentially, right? For the opposite person of my dad, someone who's there, who's supportive, who isn't controlling, who isn't over me. I have complete control over whether I talk to him every night or not, but knowing that he did because he really wanted to help me, and he completely changed my life. He saw me struggling. He saw, me cutting my, he didn't see me, but he could see the scars on my
Yes.
wrist even to this day. So he knows how much I struggled. And, I was reaching out to him for help. And I feel like he was the one that was, there. He really made me feel comfortable and trusting him, and he doesn't judge me for anything that I was thinking or going through. And I feel like that to me made me feel completely safe in sharing all my feelings and everything.
Incredible. So you've been able to go from an incredibly abusive relationship with your father, and knowing that that's not a healthy relationship, knowing that that's not how you have a relationship, which is incredible because so many women enter abusive relationships in adulthood as a result of issues with their father in the past. I know that from my own experience from working with the clients I work with. And very often you don't even know that your relationship was abusive. I mean, certainly mine wasn't with my father, yet there were elements of it that made me think it was okay when other men, as I got older, treated me in similar ways, if you like. So you had this insight again at such a young age to know that's not the right way you treat people. It's not acceptable for people to treat me that way. I want something different. You met Jake, realized that he was treating you in a different way. You were insightful enough to know that you could say to him, stop calling me. I don't want these calls every night. So you developed this incredible trust. Then you went on and got married. But it wasn't all plain sailing after that, was it either? Tell me what happened.
So I remember thinking, this is it. I've been through a lot of stuff, my childhood and with my father, and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm free from, life's, problems for the rest of my life. For some reason, I remember thinking that. And we got married. I remember it was on our 10-year, we got married on our anniversary. So December 5th, we were married. I was pregnant at the time. Everything seemed so perfect. I felt like this is it, like smooth sailing. And just when I felt like that, my son passed away. And I was around 7 months pregnant. And at the time, I remember doctors, them telling me that there shouldn't be any problems. Like, I don't know why. Like, they were completely confused. And there was a blood clot that I had that was pushing him out, that was pushing my son out.
Goodness.
And they told me that if I had him, that he would be born still. So I knew that as soon as I went into labor, as soon as my water broke, that I had to go through the pain of labor, which was worse than labor. Because it was definitely a lot worse because of the pain of the blood clot. And I remember holding him, and I remember thinking, like, this is it. I'm like, how can we go through after everything that I've been through? How can I lose my son on top of that? And then afterward, them telling me that I can never have kids again. They told me that. And that, I remember, it's always been my goal is to have a kid and just really appreciate them. And, having that, with my husband and I, we have an incredible relationship. And I've always wanted to give that to, a child, and having them naturally, I feel like that was such an important goal for me. And I remember Jake turning to me. I remember we were on the way home from like the hospital, and he said to me, he's like, "You want to have a baby?" And I said, "Yes, I do, more than anything." And he's like, "Let's do it. Let's, put this side of what medical doctors are telling us, and let's go with our feeling." And thank goodness that he encouraged me to step outside of my comfort zone a little bit, because we have a healthy, now she's 3 years old. And even to this day, doctors will tell me that I can't have kids. Even to this day, I can't have kids. But the second they always say, but I have a 3-year-old daughter. So I'm a mystery in that sense. But it was such a struggle after losing my son. It's a pain I wouldn't even want my worst enemy to ever go through.
Oh my goodness. And you've gone through all of that. And what were you, barely 20 years old?
Yeah, I think it was around 23, around that. Yeah, 22, 23.
Oh goodness. So how do you now get your strength? I know you have this incredible marriage with Jake, and I'm feeling like we need to get Jake onto an episode actually, because to hear his perspective, he sounds incredible. I know so many listeners are going to want to find out more about him, where he got his inner strength from to support you, because even grown adult males struggle with supporting women through stillbirth, through miscarriage, through pregnancy even. And yet he's gone through the whole gamut with you, and to support you from the age of, he said he was 15, with all that you were dealing with your dad as well. He sounds absolutely incredible, and I would love to meet him. But what is next for Jake and Stefanie? Because there's got to be so much more to this incredible story.
So a huge inspiration that I look back and I remember being in the hospital, holding my son, and he was still, his name's Scott. And I remember thinking that in that moment, even now I look back and it's such joy, because he is a huge inspiration to absolutely everything that I do, because he taught me that life really is so short. You have no idea how long you're going to be on, whether you're going to be, living for, only 7 months, or whether you're going to be here for years, living to your 100. You have no idea. So I feel like a huge part of my mission is to help inspire people to say, you know what, you don't have to live in a life of, from your past. You don't have to hold on to your anxieties. I've been through all that. I know it's hard. It's not easy to get over, but you can live free. You can live happy, because you only have one life. And I feel like you need to take chances on yourself and really create that dream life. Be confident, be authentically you. And I feel like it's such a huge part of it is my experience and everything that I went through. And I feel like everything that I do, my why is for sure, I think about my son and my daughter as well, because I'm like, you know what? I know the impossible is possible, and everything that I do is for them. And I feel like with my husband, Jake, and I, we have just grown incredibly closer. Even after my son passed away, our son, it just built this bond even closer together. And I'm so excited because he also helped. He's a motivational speaker and fitness trainer as well. So he has the same kind of mission. He's been through such hard times, and he turns his pain of what he's gone through, same like me, we turn our pain and turn it into purpose, turn it into helping other people. So that way, just to make other people's lives, just a little, even if it helps at least somebody out there to know that it is painful, but you can and will get through it.
Wow, absolutely incredible and so inspiring. Stefanie, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And please let our listeners and viewers know where they can find out more about you, perhaps more about your story.
Yes. So you can visit us at www.csplanners.com. We also released a book. It's called Impossibly Possible, and everything is on our website, and it goes through our story. We're also on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, as well as CS Planners.
Fantastic. I will put all of the details in the show notes. Stefanie, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.